Thanks for coming back to the channel again. This is the second video in one day. But I think I've just seen some information that is surprising, but it also helps me understand a little better why the politicians that have these large liberal cities are in such a wrapped around the axle. Specifically, I want to talk about New York City. More specifically, I want to talk about Midtown South. Midtown South, there's 5 areas, but Midtown South has its own police district too. Midtown South is where everything happens in New York City. All 3 major transportation hubs, train, bus, and another terminal, all 3 terminals are there. Penn Station is there. Huge. If you've ever been to Manhattan, in Midtown, that's where you end up. That's where you end up. Times Square and all of the tourist attraction areas are in Midtown South. High-end stores, Midtown South. And crime is crazy, crazy out of control. Crazy out of control. And I'm going to give you some information about that. When I say crime, I'm talking about violent crime. Violent crime. Murder is up 30%. Rape is up 30%. Armed robbery, 60%. Think about that. Up 60% in the year. Burglary, up 45%. Grand larceny, that's smash and grabs and that kind of stuff, up 74%. So violent crime is up over 50% in this time period. And it's getting worse. It's getting worse. A lot of it are by repeat offenders, right? A lot of it is by mentally ill, violently mentally ill people, right? And they have no clue on how to deal with it because they keep catch and release. Catch and release, that's state law, right? Because they don't know how to deal with it. What they're terrified of in the face of NYSERPA versus Bruin, the Supreme Court case that says citizens have a right to be armed in public, terrifies them. Terrifies them. And I'm going to explain why. Because once you have the ability as an individual citizen to defend yourself with deadly force, and that means a gun, what do you think is going to happen? Because there are humans that are doing this increased crime. What do you think is going to happen to those bad guys? They're going to fail the room temperature test. They're going to all take an unplanned dirt nap because civilians will be killing them by the droves. And it will traumatize the elected officials, those elected officials, almost all Democrats, who they don't know how to say it's okay to defend yourself with deadly force. They don't know how to do that. And they want to hang on this thing that says, well, it's not the criminal's fault. It's not the criminal's fault that they're like that, right? It's society's fault and something else. So we can't let them just die. Well, the cops, police, have a different set of rules of engagement. They must de-escalate. There's a lot of crap that cops have to do before they actually use self-defense. Civilians don't. By the time we get to use deadly force, there is no such thing as de-escalation. We are not required to de-escalate crap. And here's the problem with that. The behavior of a panhandler who's doing aggressive panhandling is exactly the same behavior as a guy that's ready to rob you. Think about that. It's exactly the same behavior until it's too late. Until it's too late. And panhandlers that are used to being aggressive, if they continue to be aggressive and civilians are armed, the civilian will think, rightfully so, that they are now under threat of immediate serious injury, bodily injury or death. Rightfully so. You don't have to incur the injury. So if you're used to being an aggressive panhandler, or you are known to be off your meds and your behavior is aggressive and violent, nobody's going to try to de-escalate you. A civilian is not expected to be a social worker or mental health person or know when somebody's off their drug. Their job is to protect themselves. So if one of these people becomes aggressive, it'll be the last time and the problem will be solved. What does that mean? Well, if you're the mayor of New York City or the governor and Midtown South is kind of like your tourist hub, man, there's going to be bodies all over the place until the homeless people get the word and the bad guys get the hell out of town, because they will be forced to leave. Let me give you an example. I live in the free state of Idaho. I live in Boise, Idaho, the largest city in the state. Yes, we have homeless people here. Yes, we have homeless people that have mental health issues. We have homeless people that sometimes are off their meds. But let me explain what happens here. The homeless people that have been here for a minute will say to the newcomers who will try to do aggressive panhandling. What does that mean? They try to walk up on a citizen and say, "Excuse me, you got a light, you got the time," because you'll have another homeless person go, "Are you nuts? We can't do that here. Don't do that here." And then they'll get the, "Well, why?" I said, "Because you're going to get your ass shot." Most of these people carrying guns. You can't be walking up on somebody like that. If you want to panhandle, stand on the corner with a cardboard sign. That's all you can do here. Because if you do anything more aggressive, they don't care. They're going to think you're going to attack them and they're going to shoot you. And then you get, because they're coming from someplace else, usually Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, Portland or something. And they'll go, "Really? Yeah, don't do that." Go back to Midtown South in New York City. That is what the elected officials are afraid of. You unleash civilians' ability to use deadly force in their own defense, and the bad guys, however they're bad, start to become eliminated. It also positively addresses recidivism. You don't need to worry about the revolving door because there's no more door for them to go through. So if you're a liberal politician dealing with that reality, potentially, you're going to do everything you can to not have armed citizens in your large cities, because you will lose that constituency, and then conservatives will take over. I guarantee you that's what will happen. So I understand a little better, because that's serious, but I also understand that it's going to take something serious to make it go away. And that something serious is not going to be political action, creating some kind of, social work interaction group to go out and do outreach. It's going to take the word getting out to the homeless population. Not everybody who's homeless is a bad guy. A lot of them are. To the mentally ill, their families, whoever's caregiving for them is going to say, "Look, you're going to have to behave yourself, or you're not going to get a do-over." You're not going to get a do-over. So, I don't know, boys and girls. That's my assessment. And some of it's personal, because I know that what terrifies me if I'm in another city, take Las Vegas, for example, which I don't go to hardly ever, but if I do, they have aggressive panhandling there in some areas. And I treat anyone who is closing distance on me, as attempting to rob me. Right? Now, what I would do is I go to defensive display when that happens. Normally I'm carrying concealed. When somebody gets too close like that, I uncover and let them know that I'm armed. I don't put my hand on the weapon or anything. I'm 100% of the time, mostly. Their eyes get big and they back off. except for that person that has already decided they're going to jack you, then you're probably going to go up against their knife or their gun, and hopefully you've trained for that. So that's my thought. That's my thought on this situation. There's another one I'll do another video on, but how do you, ladies and gentlemen, feel about my thoughts on this? Because I certainly welcome them down below. Again, if you like the content, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and as always, wherever you can, however you can, whenever you can, carry on.